For as long as I can remember, I have thoroughly enjoyed fishing. My fishing memories go all the way back to my childhood days when my dad taught me how to fish with night crawlers on Coldwater Lake in southeastern Michigan. And for much of my adult life, I have chased warm water fish, such as bass and pike, whenever I've had the opportunity to do so. In recent years, however, I have acquired an intense interest in fly fishing for trout, and I am particularly interested in wild trout living in small streams. Which brings me to my recent vacation near the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. While I was in the area, I decided to check out one of the small streams within the lakeshore. I knew very little about the area, and I knew next to nothing about this particular river. All I had was a map of the lakeshore and a desire to have a remote adventure with the Lord in His creation. I started off the morning by hiking to a waterfall located on the river. My ears confirmed that I was getting closer to the falls as I walked. There's just something special about hearing the sound of rushing water before you can see it. Once at the falls, I spent some time taking in the scenery. I especially enjoyed the rock walls that protruded out of the river in that area. After spending a little while at the falls, I began to hike downstream. I knew from the map that the river would eventually empty into Lake Superior, but I wanted to do some fishing before I got to the river's mouth. So I followed the main trail downstream, every half mile or so, cutting into the woods toward the river to fish it. There were no side trails leading to the river, and at times it was quite a bushwhack getting to the river. More than once my fly rod got tangled in the brush, but it was well worth it. In regard to the main trail, it was relatively flat and provided easy walking. There were a few sections of elevation change, but the park had created steps into the hillside which made the ascent and descent very manageable. The main trail also contained numerous footbridges over small brooks or areas that are often boggy. Oh yeah, and there were thousands of exposed tree roots on the trail. Some people may look at those exposed tree roots and see them as a potential tripping hazard, but I thought they only added to the beauty of the hike. They also reminded me of a few verses in the Bible that talk about tree roots and how they parallel our walk with the Lord when we put Him first in our lives. This is something I need reminded of often. Regarding the river itself, overall it was very shallow. I wore waist waders, but they were completely unnecessary. Most sections of the river that I observed were less than 18 inches deep, with a few scattered holes of a few foot deep. If I ever get back to this river, and I hope to, I am just going to wet wade. Much of the river was covered in deadfalls, and it was very overgrown in many places. Traditional fly casting was not an option on this small stream, and there really was not even enough air to false cast a fly in an attempt to dry the fly out. I found myself placing the fly with a simple roll cast or a slingshot cast. It was really a lot of fun. I eventually made my way to the location where the mouth of the river empties into Lake Superior. It was a beautiful sight. The river here was fast, only a few inches deep, and the river bottom appeared to be solid rock. I am not sure if it was bedrock or if the Canadian Shield extends into this part of the Upper Peninsula or not, but it was very cool. After spending some time at the mouth of the river, I hiked the mile and a half back to the parking lot. Because this was more of an exploration trip, I actually did more hiking than fishing. However, many tiny trout bumped the orange stimulator fly that morning, and I did catch one small brookie. Honestly, I was not surprised that I did not connect with more fish. I've only fished for trout a handful of times, and I tend to learn best from the mistakes that I make. And having only fished for trout a handful of times, I have just not had enough opportunities to make enough mistakes to get good at it yet. Those few hours I spent on and around the river that day were quite enjoyable, and the remote adventure I was seeking came to pass. Throughout the day, I was probably only a few hundred feet from dozens of day hikers on the main trail. However, for the most part, I could not see the day hikers, nor could I hear them. Overall, it was a great day full of the solitude I was seeking. There are countless other trout opportunities in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I am certain that many of them, if not most of them, provide better fisheries than the small streams of the pictured rocks. However, if one is looking for a beautiful, remote small stream with worn trails and easy access, I cannot think of a better place to wet a fly.